Welcome on back, everyone, to the Proving Grounds powered by Verizon. Oh, we got Spawn on the picture. I love it. Hey, get a little bit of Spawn picture on there. Make sure Team Liquid Academy are presenting. But here we are, joined by Rafa and Beatdown Boulevard for our second series of the day. Immortals AOE taking on Dignitas Academy.
And Dignitas Academy are a little bit of a kind of, let me just put it, politely. Almost everyone on the broadcast team had put them at 10th as the expected seed for Academy. They came in as the 6th seed from the Academy. Almost. I put them at 9th. And I know that it's kind of a meme response, but like, I wanted to believe in them in more. But you know what? The faithful was rewarded. They got in at the 6th seed, and that does mean that Immortals AOE are going to be looking at a pretty strong opponent going into this one.
Definitely. And the thing too, which I think a lot of Academy teams share, but is especially true of Dignitas, is that the way you see them play things out when it comes to making plays, going in team fights, they make it with their whole heart, for lack of a better term, where they all commit and there's no hesitation. And that is something to worry about for amateur teams, just because we saw an example in the last series about how decisive Academy teams can be in general and how hard it is to team fight against them.
Yeah, it definitely does. They would have brought up the roster. I did want to go ahead and see if we can get the bracket up really quick, just to update everyone on where we've gotten to this point, right? We did just have the 2-0 victory there by the side of Team Liquid Academy. It does make things turn out a little bit, right? Team Liquid Academy waiting on the winner of 100 Thieves Next and FlyQuest Academy themselves. And then we look at this next matchup, Immortals AOE versus Dignitas Academy. They'll be facing up against the winner of either C9 Academy or TSM Academy.
Bum, bum, bum.
Bum, 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 bum. All right, that's a fun one for sure. But Immortals AOE, we've already been talking about tall tasks. I don't know how many more tasks we can make tall, but it will be difficult to be taking down Dignitas Academy themselves. And Immortals AOE, no slouches in their own right, put together a pretty incredible roster for themselves, and especially being led by the jungle captain Winston over there. It is always nice.
For sure. And the thing that I think a lot of people who watch amateur, cast amateur, talk about when you look at Immortals AOE is although they do have a lot of good players in pretty much every role, Mazel, Rafa, you probably heard me say this during prep, but it's the meat show, baby. It's the meat show. Their 80 carry, he is an unbelievable player when it comes to team fighting. So much of how this team wins goes through that man, and how he's able to play things out in this hyper carry meta, and how he's able to perform on these picks, even on the early game picks like the Caitlyn. This dude has hands for days.
Yeah, for Meech, he is one of the most kind of underrated marksmen in amateur for like the past 2 years, because during 2021, in a landscape and a pool that included the likes of Danny before he got promoted to LCS, him, I want to also look at Wixie, Gorka, Array as well. Meech was one of the few 80 carries where it's like, oh yeah, Meech is also up there in terms of S-tier marksman and amateur scene. But Meech has never really gotten a chance to fully, make a run through in Proving Grounds after spring, where he was on Dignitas Mirage. So Meech is looking for a better turnout this time around.
See that qualified in there. Unfortunately, Meech, I'm looking at you. We got to get some pictures of you out on the interwebs there. We don't like to look at silhouettes, Meech, but he is decidedly Team Door, which I don't know how I feel about that one. If you know, you know, I guess. But in all actuality, Meech himself will need to perform very well, as he has been for Immortals AOE. And on the other side, got to talk about Spawn, the diamond in the rough. I feel like the guy that has been performing all along for Dignitas Academy, and now coming into Proving Grounds, has some more to show.
Yeah, when we look at Dignitas Academy often, a lot of the times we are hyping up XU because he is the one that is the early game engine, driving the team to success and really controlling the pace at which Dignitas are going to play. But Spawn is one of the longer tenured members on this squad alongside JJ, and both he and him, even though that JJ, has experience from FlyQuest, LCS, Spawn came from amateur after 2020. Played on Polar Ace, was at the Scouting Grounds class and on Team Mountain, respectively, and then came in as the starting AD carry for Dignitas Academy in 2021. And historically, he has been seen more of a low-income, weak resources player, and allowing the facility of stronger mid lane and top lane solo carry players in the past. Laurel was a big one for Dignitas Academy last year, but this time around, Spawn is stepping up. He is one of the, if not the primary damage carry for Dignitas Academy.
I think that's what makes this matchup so exciting, because that development during his long tenure, Mark, is so interesting here for this team, because we look at Meech, who for as long as we've known him in the amateur scene is that sort of hyper carry player where, look, whatever team he's on, look, let's play for Meech and he's going to make it happen. And now Spawn, who wasn't always that kind of player, has developed into such a player, and he's realized that the C in ADC stands for carry, and he's demanding those resources, and he's been playing more like it lately, and this clash in the bottom lane, it's about to go crazy.
It is. You can see some notable stats there. Highest KDA, second highest damage percentage in 2022. 3 academy seasons under his belt as well. Starting to become a main point for Dignitas Academy, especially seeing them later into the rest of the academy season, especially in those last couple clips we saw. Every single game, the guy was at like 5-0 something, just popping off as an ADC. So it's always fun, and I can't wait to see the fireworks that do unfold in this bottom lane as Meech and Spawn take to the Rift soon. Guys, take it away for Champion Select.
He said it, be down.
I was literally about to say that to you. There it is. Synergy.
I get to take it. Thank you, Zell. I appreciate you. Merci beaucoup. Just shout outs to my boy. The other thing too about those stats for Spawn, the reason why you have to say starting bot laners is because the only other person that beats him in, at least for first place in highest KDA, was Stixay. But Stixay wasn't necessarily the supposed to be the starting AD carry for Golden Guardians Academy. He was just the positional coach, and he stepped in because, they were also in Visa hell with Violet and trying to make sure that he was legally allowed to play for the team. So, considering that Spawn is leading the KDA for marksmen across the board, that is super huge.
It is. It just further makes that point of his shift as a player in the AD carry role that much more stark, and I think worthy of respect, just because of the fact that, again, he was that player who was more low resources, the weak side, the don't worry guys, I can handle this, while you play the Ash main, where you play to the other side of the map. And to see him now really grow into his own as that hyper carry role and pull off such stats like that this year alone is incredible here.
This is how talent development works, where Spawn gets to play not only with more experienced players, but also in a more competitive environment. You get access to the resources that you don't always get readily available in an amateur landscape. And so Spawn has, when we were looking at kind of like the hype prospects from the side of amateur talent in 2020, Spawn was on the lower end of the list, because it's like, oh well, he's doing the best that he can. He's a weak resources player, and he's maximizing it, and he's putting out a lot of damage, but it's really only on Ashe and maybe a couple Ezreal games, right? But Dignitas saw something in him that a lot of people didn't. He also qualified for Scouting Grounds for Team Mountain, and now look where he's at. A full year of academy under his belt. All that experience pays off, and now he's leading the charts, and he definitely deserves the credit here in 2022.
Yeah, and it shows that that's what Meech is going to be up against, along with the rest of Immortals AOE in this matchup here. Again, another amateur team, even though it is LCS affiliate, going up against another academy team here in Dignitas Academy. So, of course, their work has certainly been cut out for them in that regard, like what we've been seeing the last couple of days with playing in the first round of games. But still, Mark, there is a lot to be said about what Immortals AOE could potentially do, because of the teams in amateur, I think Immortals AOE do one of the best jobs when it comes to playing around their main win con, because it's the main thing that they like to do with playing for Meech. That's why I'm expecting him to get a hyper carry pick into his pocket there. Something like the one of the big three that's been going through. Even though they're nerfed, we are seeing the priorities stay almost the same. You got your Lucians, your Ezreals here and there, but it's still mostly been Jinx, Aphelios, Zeri.
And one of the other things, so you have to remember, whoa, okay. We got some things to catch up on, but it's okay. The other thing to look on is Shochi is kind of seen as the Swiss Army knife, you know, especially after having a conversation with you and Smacks about it. It's like, you know, Shochi maybe not necessarily a star player, and, you know, the win con for Immortals AOE is playing towards Meech. Shochi can always be the band-aid that, you know, is the glue that holds the team together. Like, whatever champion you need that makes this composition work, Shochi will pick it for you.
I'll tell you what, Mark, I do call a lot of my male friends king and everything like that, but not everyone can be a king, and people underestimate the value of a good knight. And that's what being a role player essentially is, where you are able to contribute a lot.
I like that.
You're able to contribute a lot to your team, and that's what Shochi does. Maybe he's not getting the highlight reel plays, but you said it, we've said it, he is the glue that holds the roster together with the champ pool and the fact that he can play so very much for this squad. And I think as we just, at this point, because we're kind of catching up, we can zoom out a little bit and just look at these comps as a whole here. You can see that priority on the Hecarim still being there for Winston. We know, for anyone who remembers 2021 Spring and Amateur, that he was one of the junglers who definitely had to play a lot of that. You know he's going to be able to put a lot of work on this champion, setting up dives later on into those stages of the game.
For Dignitas, they're going back to comfort here. And even though Jinx was one of the hyper carries that was nerfed on this patch, there's still many marksmen that are proving that Jinx is still pretty damn good.
Yep.
And if you have the pieces around her, yes, the laning phase is slightly weaker, but you can still ramp up and be that late game monster that we have seen many players on this Jinx become.
Yo, Mark, do you see that?
That's an Akali.
That's an
for
Akali.
Anime girl.
I love that. Because you know what? I think a little credit we have to give over to Anime Girl as well. Yeah, the IMA, big on Meech, big carry. But the thing is, I think Anime Girl across the first two qualifiers since January, Mark, has improved a lot as a player. Of course, a lot of the time we see him on the more low-income picks like the Gragas and things like that. But now today, he's pulling out the Akali that we know he can play. Because, like I keep saying, Winston, he needs a dive buddy.
It's always better to make the dive go off when you are, you know, doing it in sync, right? And I was kind of muttering under my breath if Eclipse is going to pick the Riven here, because around week, I want to say week 5, week 6, Eclipse also saw the same matchup against, I don't remember who it was against, but someone was playing the Akali, blinding it, and Eclipse just ran the Riven out of nowhere. I'm like, what? You play this champion? And he got a lot of lane pressure. Not necessarily the best laning phase, but then, you know, team fighting, it carried on. But this time it is the Gangplank, and if I'm not mistaken, I have to go back in the stats, but this is Eclipse's first Gangplank appearance for 2022.
Wow, that's definitely an exciting one. I mean, we see what we've seen time and time again, and even as recently as last game, what Gangplank can do in the hands of skilled players who understand him, like Bradley in last game, and many other players before him. So Eclipse, really, for the first time, bringing that out is kind of making a statement here, being like, all right, it's PG, it's spring, we're a couple months into the year, I've been practicing it, I've been in the lab, as some people say, and we're here to bring it out. And he is going to be a late game monster if he's going to be able to perform on such a pick. And I think one of the most interesting things for me about this one is the mid lane matchup, and I think in this meta it just always is, because even though Ahri is nerfed, still, if Shochi can trade effectively, should be able to get at least some bit of mid lane priority. Means he should be able to at least defend his jungler a little bit in Winston, because when you look at Trundle, one of the best early game junglers there is, great gank setup. And when you look at the mid and top lane, you do have these potential lanes that you could be playing for here, trying to get some of these early game kills, get a lead on the dark lanes, get a lead onto Eclipse.
There's a lot of narratives that we can talk about, and, you know, during the pre-show for this series, we really highlighted Spawn and Meech to be the main people that we wanted to look at. But for Immortals AOE, you look at how the rest of the solo lanes are set up, you look at the jungler pick as well. A lot of these picks aren't necessarily champions that say, I am here to purely support Meech. That might be a result of the ganks and the flanks that they look for if they, you know, cross map, do pressure and try to dive spawn early on. But it's not necessarily about, okay, I am literally gifting kills to Meech. It's more about, I'm going to create pressure on the backline and make Spawn's job insanely hard so that Meech's job is easier to execute.
That's the big thing here. Just because we have those two hyper carries into the bot lane, enemy girl. Notice just a little bit too late that he's in trouble. But I like the point you bring up, Mark. I mean, you see Meech, you see Spawn, these two players who have been the bulk of their team's damage, the bulk of their team's carry potential for some time now. And the question ends up being, how are we going to play towards them? Winston, actually, both junglers are pathing opposite, so they're probably not going to meet each other soon unless XU goes for some very interesting early game pathing because of the ward Eclipse put down. But otherwise, things should be a little slower early on. I'm looking for XU to be the one to make some of these early plays because he has a lot more of that power.
He's the one. What's the quote that Trundle says? I'm the troll with the plan. And XU, maybe a troll in personality. He's got some dank memes every now and then. But, you know, when it comes to playing, he's definitely not a troll. He plays for real. And JJ and Spawn actually have the level 2 advantage over Trevor and Meech. They forced the flash out. Trevor under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and already that Summoner's down. Pots have to be used here, and that's the bottom lane of Dignitas Academy getting all this pressure, and it means because you expect the pathing of Winston, XU gets to snag away some jungle camps. There's good intuition there from Winston to just avoid the Raptors. He knows their forfeit and is just going to immediately go for the Krugs and pray that his red buff is there.
And just nice, as you already talked about in an XU, when you're facing against the Hecarim, you know they want a full clear, and because they had that ward on the blue buff and the Gromp, seeing Winston, they could predict where his pathing is going to be. And yeah, XU doesn't get a chance to force Winston out, but he is stalling and preventing him from hitting level 4 because there's no Raptor camp anymore.
That's right. It is going to be the one camp, but of course, you are still slowing Winston down on his clearing, and you're taking advantage of the time champs like Hecarim are vulnerable. Those first two clears, it is good. Now, wow, big wave stacked here. And this is a tough matchup for Anime Girl to be playing into just because, I mean, the wave clear is not great for Akali in those early levels. Your Q costs so much energy at level 1, meaning that there's probably a good amount of CS that he's going to be losing.
And Shochi just barely 50% HP. XU taking his time to clear out his camps because he knows that Dark Wings and Eclipse still are safe for, you know, at least another wave or two before Winston can make his way on over to the top side. However, Eclipse now has to be careful. Winston is only level 3, but he still has the ghost and he has the overextended gangplank. Eclipse trying to flash on forward, but Winston still has the movement speed to punish for first blood.
And that punish is just magnified tenfold, Mark, by the fact that Eclipse flashed as well. So if you get in a situation where you're pushed up again, oh, Shochi.
Oh, Chain still connects. JJ is here for the regank. XU flashing over the pillar that he created, and JJ, also being the proud mama bear, will tank that last turret shot gracefully.
Really nicely done. Really nice dive coming through. You go flash for flash, and the same thing is doubly true here for Shochi. No flash pre-6 means that XU could show up again very, very soon and make another similar play here if Darkwings can once again set things up with the ethereal change.
And this is an overall shift of where Dignitas have usually put a lot of their resources for. Because for this squad, Dignitas Academy mainly played towards the bottom lane, accelerating spawn, which is why he was able to become such a huge damage resources carry, and he made great use of that, always executing on all the plays that Dignitas were able to set up for him. But this time around in the second round robin, Darkwings has been seeing a little bit of a glow up himself, because in the first round robin, he was a role player, he was a passenger, and he's just, you know, just doing everything that he could to get on by laning phase before he could contribute in team fights. But this time around, Dignitas Academy, as of recent, have been playing more to snowballing Darkwings, getting him out of lane, getting him a snowball advantage, and then he is the one that gets to set up the tempo for the rest of the game.
He's already in a great position to do so here, with being up 16 CS, and it already is offering so much pressure in that mid lane. This is boding very well for Dig in the early game. You have so much pressure mid, even with that kill top, you still have this wave shove because of Anime Girl's inferior wave clear. And you still have the run of the map if you're XU. We're not at the point yet where Winston as the Hecarim can start to feel more confident about, one, just being inside his own jungle, and two, being able to make and or answer the plays that we're seeing from Dignitas.
And Dignitas have the pressure mid lane. They had the push out the wave in the bottom lane as well. First dragon easily secured by them. And Immortals AOE, talked about it before, you know, you're looking to Meech to be the carry, the one that pulls through, all about the Meech show, right? But we are quite a ways away from before Meech can really come online to that point.
We are. And it's true of both Meech and Spawn. So they're both on those hyper carries, where it does take you a good amount of time for you to be able to scale up, get to the key 2 item spike and beyond. So that's why, until then, we kind of look at the top side of the map. And that's where a lot of these plays has been happening here. It's been invades, stealing camps, making plays. Speaking of plays, they're looking.
Look at that. Dark Wings baits out or was almost baited using the distortion, but Shochi not able to land the charm quite in time. Dark Wings blinked back before it connected. And Winston, while they're ready to punish it, Dark Wings still safe in that lane.
Now things have slowed down a little bit after the initial plays that we saw. It's, I think, most worth noting that Winston can make another play on this top side. He still has no flash. You have level 7 and ignite backup on this Akali. Does mean there is dive potential now that Winston has level 6, and that's probably the best bet right now with this wave Anime Girl stacking up.
And Dark Wings also getting this wave shoved in, so he can lend some of his agency towards the top side of the map, make sure that Eclipse is not too pressured by this Akali. And Anime Girl already dipping out. And good communication from Immortals AOE, just making sure that they know that Dark Wings was on the prowl, potentially looking for an angle. Winston is on the bottom side of the map. There's no dragon for another 3 minutes, so Winston could either look for a bot lane angle here if Spawn JJ overextend themselves.
Thing is, I think Winston wants to make a play for that Rift Herald. You have some more gold spent by Anime Girl, who just TP'd back to lane, and now this gives you that opening to be able to fight for the Rift Herald if you want to, because you have that top side with a little bit of power in your favor. The only MR available to Eclipse is from that Null Magic Mantle, and you can see it's not doing a whole lot. My God. Anime Girl!
Oh, Anime Girl actually going for the all-in cannon barrage under the tower, but Anime Girl tries to dip back out with the second cast of Perfect Execution. Not confident that he could get the kill and survive in time, just making sure that he is the one that has a health bar lead over Eclipse. He's chugging on Corrupting Potion stacks right now, trying to make sure that he can walk back over to XU. Because at the moment, XU could be in a 1v2. Dark Wings, thankfully, will be pulled on over.
You're going to let this one go. Shochi had to back at a bit of an unlucky time and has to answer the wave in mid. Means Winston is just going to go for the reset and not waste any more time here. A lot of pressure from Anime Girl. He's now starting to get some levels on the 5-point strike, and it means that he's going to be able to trade a little more effectively, as we've been seeing in this top side. The problem is, with that lack of priority on Rift Herald, it means XU is now in the area. It means now XU can get a little bit of extra gold onto his top laner. He says, Eclipse, is this guy bothering you, King?
Let me put him in his place real quick right now. XU doesn't necessarily have threat potential in the Anime Girl, but he does allow Eclipse to crash the wave, and actually, not actually crashed quite yet. It's frozen right under the tower. So this is a nice spot for Anime Girl.
Yeah, you might need to thin that one out, but it's true, especially with the fact that Eclipse doesn't have the teleport available just yet, is that he might lose out a little bit there. But overall, XU still has the Herald to play with here, and not dropping a top tells me he's probably wanting to use it on that bottom side of the map. We talked about Spawn and how he has been demanding more resources as of late, and on this Jinx, who's already got a bit of a lead going for him here, getting turret plates, accelerating this hyper carry. I think that sounds just fine.
And we know that the laning phase is a little bit weaker, but, you know, talk about it. Late game, still the same. You are still, you know, on full blast as the Jinx with those rockets and the lethal tempo stacking on up. So Dignitas, Definitely in the same mindset with you. Actually, already pathing towards the bottom side of the map. Imagine that with Spawn and JJ, they'll go for a 1-2 play. Allow the Rift Herald to crash, giving Spawn the majority of the gold. And because then the wave has crashed and forcing Immortal AOE to defend, that opens up the dragon. And that puts them at 2 dragons overall.
Right, but Herald first, Mark. Herald first, as JJ has access
One
to the
step at a
solar
time,
flare.
you're
That's
right.
right. As he's just waiting for that opportunity, that angle to be able to drop Hold Shelly to give a chance at some extra gold.
And XU was technically on a ward. I'm assuming that he was maybe waiting if Meech and Trevor would, you know, look for an overextensive play. Eclipse might be the one that is overextended, though, because Anime Girl put a nice flash from Eclipse, immediately gets out.
And there it is. So much pressure thrown at the top laner of Dignitas Academy. And though it's true he has died once, he's done a pretty solid job at keeping his laning phase going despite all of that. He's got that minor CS lead. And it does mean that even though he's had to go the Hex Drinker, he hasn't been slowed down too much here. And it makes it even better for Dignitas Academy being like, hey guys, your jungler just showed up topside. He's not here to save you. Really think about if this wave is worth it.
Damn, that sounded so like, you know, like a crime boss or something. It's like,
That's good. That's what I was going for.
You think you want the CS? No, you don't.
You don't. Not in the slightest. But instead, actually, they're not willing. Dignitas not willing to make good on that threat. They're just going to back off. That doesn't mean that XU is running out of time on that Eye of the Rift Herald. He's going to need to break that one soon. And we've seen these situations before where if you do hold on to it too long, maybe you don't get the opportunity that you're looking for. But it could very well be that, okay, you have bottom side camps to farm. There's a lot of gold and XP XU should be picking up right now so that they can reset. And Spawn and JJ went for the reset as well. We're seeing the Mythic come through. So now is that opportunity to drop the Rift Herald. I really hope so, Mark, because, I mean, look at the eye. It's getting close.
We're also a minute and 10 seconds away from turret plates expiring. So I'm pretty sure Dignitas are aware of that. They're saying, okay, you know what? I have, you know, a solid 20 seconds to clear out my jungle, get all of this gold and experience to make sure I'm not falling behind against Winston, because, you know, that is the bane of playing Trundle into something like a Hecarim or even an Udyr, right? You have a limited amount of time. And that Rift Herald is a little far away from the turret. It will make its charge forward, and so XU's got to just, you know, be like a shepherd, escort the Rift Herald on over to the tower, and then Spawn setting up the last couple auto attacks. Won't completely take out the tower. And now Immortals AOE want to be able to find a counter engage right now where Spawn, JJ, and XU are overextended. Winston coming through. Onslaught of Shadow splits up the members of Dignitas Academy, and that's 2 members gone. But Dark Wings, he sees it, flashing forward. The Sigil of Malice will be able to smite down Winston, and Spawn dodging out on skill shots left, right, and center, still keeping himself alive. Huge damage from Dark Wings. The distortion finds all the members of Immortals AOE. Trim of Trevor and Meech are critically low. They need to be able to advance forward. Meeching flashing away from the zap. Dark Wings looking to see if he can get in range, but it looks like it'll just be a 2 for 2 in the end.
Wow, and that ends up being a pretty even trade for what I thought was a heads-up play from Winston and Shochi. They knew the dot was coming, as you can see in the replay. Look at the minimap. They're already on their way to join this fight. That's why you see Trevor commit the Glacial Fissure, try to make the play happen. But because of how far they need to go to secure these 2 kills, it's easier for Dark Wings to show up and end up making the kill, of course. Did have to commit the flash for that Sigil of Malice, but between that and the Electrocute proc that's about to show up, that's 2 kills for this LeBlanc, essentially keeping your lead nice and strong for Dignitas Academy.
And if we think about it, you know, Spawn, yes, he didn't necessarily receive the kills, but he still cashed in on the assists, and he's going to be scaling on up. He is still going to be a strong team fighting carry the later the game goes on. The fact that Dark Wings is the one that cashes in for those 2 early kills on the LeBlanc, oh, that is so huge, because now if you're Immortals AOE, you gotta keep an extra ward or 2 in your pocket when you're walking through these jungle corridors.
That's right. Need to be aware of this LeBlanc's location at any given moment, because right now, Dark Wings, you can see it. He's up 13, almost 1,400 gold on Shochi, and it is really starting to show now that Luden's Tempest has been built, as there isn't very much on the map except for this Rift Herald to play for. And with that teleport top, Tells me Shochi could be potentially very interested in it.
Immortals AOE have a business proposition. We would like to take this Rift Herald. Can we get you to, you know, can we convince you to join us in our cause? And Shochi says, all right, bet. You know, he's teleported to the top side of the map. However, neither team is actually biting for the Rift Herald quite yet. There is a dragon that is coming up, and Dignitas recognized, you know what? That's the second Rift Herald. It's like budget. That's Kmart brand. You know, we want the third dragon of the game. However, XU stepping a little too far forward. Winston once again with the counter re-engage, trying to catch out over
Anime
Dignitas
girl
members, but XU will stay alive thanks to the subjugate, and Dark Wings shuts down a potential assassination. Anime Girl still gets it off on the spawn, but the rest of Immortals AOE are too weak to fight.
Still got a lot of teamfight tools were blown here from both sides, but the low health from Winston means that Immortals AOE, they're going to back off. And what does that mean, Mark? We have a very, very early Dragon Soul point coming up here for the side of Dignitas Academy. They're going to have that Cloud Soul going their way, and that's actually going to be pretty impactful. Thinking about the champions that they have for themselves. And we're going to see it in the replay how this one started off. Is going to be, looks like JJ finding the engage here to kind of start things off. And oh, it actually ends up being the engage onto XU. And after those double TPs come through, you got a bunch of ultimates used here. I think really the way the kills end up forming is that Anime Girl goes 1-for-1 for spawn, but it wasn't enough to dissuade the dragon take of Dignitas Academy.
XU managing to stay alive, as you said before, ensures that, yes, he doesn't get the fight, but he gets to maintain objective priority for Dignitas Academy. And a credit to Immortals AOE, they are, you know, not even that far behind. You know, a slight 1,000 gold difference at under 18 minutes. But they do have to prepare themselves for the upcoming dragon in 4 minutes. As you said before, soul point for Dignitas Academy would put them in a very, very controlling point in the game. Spawn just, you know, I want to imagine all very close to his second item. Jinx will be able to deal a lot more damage in these fights. And they're just looking for the pick onto Trevor, knowing that he doesn't have flash from before. JJ with tanking so much damage from Meech as he's trying to repel the forces of Dignitas being able to lock down Trevor for a killing blow. Dignitas Academy don't manage to actually get more out of Immortals AOE.
No, you just essentially have a handshake of ultimates being traded there from both sides. And although some resets are coming through, that actually will give the opening for Dignitas to be able to drop that Rift Herald, because their bot lane have stayed in the mid lane, and you have the Eye of the Herald that he's holding onto here right now. He's not going to have it in time for when that dragon actually spawns, but instead he's just going to go for the invade here. Okay, no, he's going to drop it top, be able to break open some of these side lanes, and it does end up working out just because of how strong Darkwings is. You push out these side waves, Darkwings is a good chance he's going to be answering one of them. And if you push out too far, Mark, he's not even going to run you down. He's just going to pop you as soon as you show up.
Now, I know Trevor is here for reinforcements just in case things get a little spicy. I don't know if Immortals AOE necessarily wanted to tango for a all-out 2v2. Just got to wait out cooldowns. And XU and Darkwings respecting, you know, potential for someone to be waiting in the wings. They're only there to take out the tier 1 turret. And when you look at the state of the map right now, Beatdown, it is 3 turrets taken versus none for Immortals AOE. So they are, or not 3 turrets, 2 turrets. So there's some catching up to do if you are Immortals AOE. But we got a fight going on. Trevor trying to make the engage happen, but Dignitas immediately answer right on back, forcing Winston using his engage tool as a retreat tool, trying to get the hell out of what could have been a disaster situation. Dignitas Academy will be able to unlock the mid-tier turret with this Rift Herald crash.
It still is a bit of a disaster because of that Rift Herald crash, where you have this threat from Darkwings. It means this Herald will get another charge with that damage onto Winston. It means Dignitas could very well go for the turret if they want to, because of the numbers and damage that they have. And that's just all of a sudden so much gold from what seems like a misstep from Trevor, using that gap behind me and ending up jumping onto those traps.
3,000 gold now ahead for Dignitas Academy. And this is another, you know, example where we see, just like Team Liquid Academy against Winthrop, you can see that amateur teams, they are fighting back. against the Academy squad, but it's what the Academy teams do within in the same time frame and are able to really exemplify in terms of overall control in the map. So yes, the gold lead may not necessarily be that stark, but the overall state of the game and how much is really in your control, that is where the difference is lying.
And it's shown in all the matches that we have so far, but this is definitely one of the closer ones that we've seen, where Immortals, I mean, besides the mid slip up, they have been playing some pretty good League of Legends. With that teleport, they might be looking to play a little more, Mark, as with this dragon up in 30 seconds, that's going to be soul. Not soul point, but dragon soul for Dignitas Academy. Teleports are being expended. Everyone's being called to the party.
And Darkwing's now fishing on forward, fully completing that Shadow Flame. This is a very strong LeBlanc, and no one on the side of Immortals AOE in terms of the backline has Mercury Treads. Darkwing's being opened up, takes out Shochi in the blink of an eye.
Wow.
And the rest of Dignitas Academy just storm right on through the front line. No front line exists anymore, and the massacre was heard. Spawn picks up a triple.
Mark, there is no line left. Dignitas destroy Immortals AOE in a well-coordinated fight, which is going to get them the Baron Nashor. It's going to turn on the objective bounties, as we're going to see how this one started off again. And the big thing was the cannon barrage, and this is the timing coming through here with Eclipse and with JJ to be able to make sure nobody is leaving the cannon barrage and no one can do anything about Spawn. Dignitas 80 carry doing all that damage.
Just a beautiful chain of slow into final lockdown. Even the pillar from XU now setting up for the dominoes to be knocked down by Dignitas Academy. And then once the rest of Immortals AOE are caught out and slowed down, they're panicking. They're trying to figure out how to get out, and they cannot fight back then against Darkwings and Spawn, who come in for the cleanup.
Now, because of that cleanup, Mark, that's Dragon Soul for Dignitas Academy. A big buff coming through as we're hitting only the 23-minute mark. So this is a very early soul. Definitely one of the earliest ones we've had today, as they're going to use this Baron buff to only affect 2 lanes at once here, through mid, through bot. And with how much gold they've gotten for themselves here, this lead has ballooned up to 7,000. Look at the 280 carries. That's 3K in favor of Spawn, when before that fight, it was only about 1,000, 1,500 maybe. And now you can't do anything in terms of wave clear in dealing with this Baron push. All you can do is try to clear and watch as your inhibitor turret is going to slowly whittle away.
Yeah, because of the Baron buff, Darkwings can also play towards the mid lane and split up Immortals AOE from being, the 5-man Juggernaut squad that they want to be. Anime Girl Winston trying to capitalize on the Darkwings. He still has stasis. Can he get out away? Anime Girl looking for the assassination in the back line. Perfect execution. It's still not enough. Darkwings is able to manage to stay alive with a sliver of HP, and now it's Spawn's time to shine as he rampages through 2.
And big damage coming through from the 80 carry of Dignitas Academy, and that's going to be followed by big damage to Immortal AOE's base, as that's bottom inhibitor going down. They can move up and threaten mid as well, because those supers are going to be coming up very shortly. But they got a lot of gold, Mark. They got a lot of health they need to regain, so they're going to go for the recall here.
And we should be potentially looking at where the rest of Dignitas Academy are going to go in the top side of the map. Now that they've unlocked the bottom inhibitor, we are going to be able to get a chance to look back at that replay in the fight once again.
And here, you can see here that Winston under a lot of threat here. The Fear actually ends up setting up for a fight pretty decently, but it wasn't able to get enough as we come back to live just in time for a fight.
Look at that. Slow into Solar Flare. Easy to split up Immortal AOE members and knock them down once again. A 10,000 gold lead is almost there for Dignitas Academy, so you know that this game is completely in their control. And now it's up to Trevor Meach and Anime Girl, the last 3 members of this squad. While the death timers are running long for Winston and Shochi, Dignitas Academy are going to be leaving destruction in this base.
And they're going to be taking so much, continuing to expand their gold lead that much further. Because we're not that late in the game, never mind, they're going.
Dignitas Academy saying, we're ending this game right here, right now, under 26 minutes. They still have it. They have the damage necessary to do it. The rest of Immortals AOE, they still have 3 seconds on the clock for the last 2 members. Anime Girl goes on in. Winston from the fountain. Onslaught of Shadow comes up, but Dark Wings and the rest of the members of Dignitas Academy claim game 1.
And that's possibly one of the fastest games we've had so far in Proving Grounds, Mark. Incredibly dominating. And I will say, in like the last 7 or 8 minutes, it wasn't even like Dignitas Academy were just putting IMA in the dirt the entire time. There was a finely edged balance in this game for the first 15, almost 20 minutes coming through here. But after that soul point comes through, after that mid lane fight where the gold lead spikes in favor of Dignitas Academy, that experience we keep highlighting really starts to come through. And what that means is they are able to take those small advantages they gain, turn them into bigger ones and bigger ones and bigger ones until they're knocking on your base.
And one of the things I want to highlight, going into game 2 as well, is a lot of these players on Dignitas Academy. We talked a bit before. Spawn came from the class of 2020 with Scouting Grounds Team Mountain 2020 and Polar Ace. The rest of the Dignitas Academy members, save for JJ, in Eclipse, XU, and Dark Wings, were all playing an amateur last year. Some of them didn't even qualify in the first Proving Grounds tournament. I know XU barely missed out through Ski 9 Amateur in the spring round. Eclipse also missed out. Dark Wings was the only person that qualified for both Proving Grounds under Zeus Gaming as well as AOE Esports. And, they didn't make it that far in either tournament either. I think Zeus Gaming was the highest one that Dark Wings placed in. But then you look at how they are playing right now. Oh my gosh, it is like night and day. And this is what happens when you get a chance to level up in Academy. And so once again, it's incredible to think that a lot of these players from Dignitas Academy were just playing an amateur last year.
Right, it's an impressive thing to show. And again, it's like we highlighted in our first series of the night, Mark. Resources do matter. And it's still great, though, to see these amateurs players come through here and show us what they have. And that's kind of what we saw on this game here. And I think going into the next game, you have Meech, that player who really didn't get off the ground in this game. And we're hoping that if you're an IMA fan, if you want IMA to have a chance, that's what you're hoping for, to get Meech off the ground so that he can help your team get that win.
All right. Well, after this break, we'll be joined once again by Mazel. I know we've got some post-game halftime show fun segments heading your way, so make sure you stick around. We'll be right back soon.
It was pretty